They were loud, they were wild, and they were nearly impossible to find. Today, we're counting down the top 10 rarest Mopar muscle cars ever made, machines that defined an era of pure American horsepower. Buckle up, because at number 10, we're starting with one of the most legendary beasts ever built by Plymouth. Number 10, the 1970 Plymouth Hemi Superbird. If you've ever seen this car on the road, consider yourself lucky, because only 135 of these winged warriors were ever made. The Superbird wasn't just a car, it was a statement. Designed during Chrysler's craziest years of experimentation, it was built for one single purpose: to dominate NASCAR. Every curve, every inch of its body screamed speed. When Plymouth introduced the Superbird, people couldn't believe what they were seeing. That massive nose cone looked straight out of a jet fighter, and that towering rear wing could have doubled as a dinner table. But these weren't just for show. The Superbird's aerodynamic design gave it a drag coefficient of just 0.28, something you'd expect from modern supercars, not a muscle machine from the 70s. This car wasn't meant for the casual Sunday drive. It was a full-blown homologation special, a street-legal version of Plymouth's NASCAR monster. Its goal? To beat Ford's Torino Talladega and bring the crown back to Chrysler. And boy, did it deliver. Most people who ordered a Superbird went with the 440 Super Commando V8, a powerhouse in its own right. But only a lucky few, 135 to be exact, chose the option that would turn this already insane car into a piece of racing history. Those were the ones who got the heart of a legend, an engine so powerful it scared NASCAR itself. Driving a Superbird wasn't just about speed. It was about presence. When you rolled down the street in one of these, everyone turned their head. The sound, the size, the stance, everything about it screamed asterisk, I was built to win. Asterisk. Even today, decades later, collectors still chase these rare birds, knowing that finding a genuine Hemi Superbird is like uncovering buried treasure. Whether it's parked in a museum or roaring down a drag strip, the 1970 Plymouth Hemi Superbird remains one of the most iconic and outrageous muscle cars ever to hit American pavement. It was raw, rebellious, and ahead of its time, the ultimate symbol of Mopar madness. Engine details asterisk asterisk. Powering this legend was the legendary 426 Hemi V8, an engine originally built for racing dominance. Producing around 425 horsepower and over 490 lb-ft of torque, it transformed the Superbird into a 200 mph missile on the track. The same power plant that ruled NASCAR made this car one of the fastest street-legal machines of the entire decade and one of the rarest Mopars ever created. Number 9, the legend that took flight before any other muscle car dared to. This isn't just a car, it's a missile on wheels, the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. When you first see it, that sharp nose cone and sky-high rear wing instantly tell you this thing wasn't designed for your neighborhood streets. It was born for the track, built to dominate NASCAR, and crafted to humiliate the competition. The Daytona wasn't about looking cool, it was about cheating the wind itself. The Charger Daytona holds a very special place in automotive history. It was the first ever aerodynamically tuned Mopar, the machine that made engineers realize muscle cars could be more than brute force, they could be science. Long before wind tunnel testing became a buzzword, Dodge was already perfecting it. Unlike its more famous cousin, the Plymouth Superbird, which came out a year later in 1970, the Daytona spanned 2 production years, but with far fewer units made. In fact, only 503 cars were ever built, and that's what makes it such a mythical beast today. It was rarer, meaner, and a touch more raw. Every curve, every bolt, every inch of its body screamed speed. And speaking of speed, this thing didn't just look fast. It was fast. With that massive rear wing and pointed nose, the Daytona achieved a drag coefficient of just 0.28, the same level of aerodynamic efficiency as many supercars that came decades later. Back in 1969, that was unheard of. The result? It could easily cross the 200 mph mark on NASCAR ovals, making it one of the first American cars to ever do so. Collectors today know exactly what this car represents, the beginning of an era where muscle met engineering. Even a non-Hemi Daytona can command 6-figure prices without breaking a sweat, but if you're talking about one of those ultra-rare Hemi-powered versions, buckle up, because those can skyrocket to over $1 million at auction. In fact, one pristine example sold for a jaw-dropping $3 million. Every time you see a winged Daytona, you're looking at a symbol, a car that broke rules, broke records, and broke expectations. It wasn't just another Charger, it was the car that turned NASCAR upside down and made Dodge a household name in performance. Engine details. Engine options of the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona. Under the hood, Dodge offered two absolute monsters. The first was the 440 Magnum V8, known for its raw torque and reliability. But the crown jewel, the one that makes collectors weak in the knees, was the 426 Hemi V8. Only 70 Daytonas ever got this legendary engine. Pumping out 425 horsepower and over 490 lb-ft of torque, the Hemi made the Daytona a fire-breathing beast that could leave anything else in its dust. Number 8, the legend that most people don't even know existed. The 1967 Dodge Coronet W023, only 55 ever made. And if you've never heard of it, don't worry, most people haven't. Because this car wasn't built for showrooms, it was built for one thing: pure, unfiltered domination on the drag strip. During the 1960s, Detroit's Big Three, Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler, were locked in a full-blown horsepower war. Every year, engines got bigger, louder, and meaner. The streets shook, the tracks burned, and the competition was ruthless. In that chaos, Dodge quietly built a weapon that would leave its rivals gasping for air: the Coronet W023. The Coronet had humble beginnings. When it first rolled out in 1949, it was nothing more than a comfortable full-size family car, the kind your parents would drive to the grocery store or a Sunday picnic. But by the mid-60s, the Coronet had gone through a serious transformation. It slimmed down, moved to Dodge's B-body platform, and suddenly found itself sharing DNA with legends like the Charger and the Plymouth Roadrunner. Then someone at Dodge asked the million-dollar question: what if we turn this family car into a quarter-mile monster? And that's exactly what they did. The W023 wasn't a luxury car. It wasn't even meant for the street. It was born for drag racing, stripped to the bone, built for speed, and crafted for one single purpose: to cross the finish line first. Everything that didn't make the car faster was tossed out. The heater? Gone. Sound insulation? Useless, stripped. Even the carpets were replaced with simple rubber mats. Dodge engineers went as far as removing windshield wipers. Every ounce saved mattered. Every pound lost meant more speed off the line. When they were done, the Coronet weighed in at roughly 3,451 pounds, impressively light for a car of its size. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary two-door sedan: simple lines, no flashy chrome, no unnecessary details. But looks can deceive. Because under that plain skin was a car built to terrorize anything that dared line up next to it. Only 55 of these W023 Coronets were ever produced. And of those, 39 came fitted with Chrysler's legendary heavy-duty 727 TorqueFlite automatic transmission, the same bulletproof gearbox that became famous for handling massive torque loads on the strip. To make sure all that brutal force actually reached the pavement, Dodge paired it with a sure-grip rear end and a vicious 4.87-to-1 gear ratio. That meant the car could launch like a rocket: brutal, loud, and absolutely unstoppable. The Coronet W023 wasn't about luxury, comfort, or even looks. It was about victory. And when it hit the drag strip, it proved exactly why Dodge had earned its Scat Pack reputation. Every pass it made was a statement: this was a factory-built drag car, raw and ruthless, engineered to destroy the quarter mile. It didn't care about style. It didn't care about comfort. It cared about one thing: winning. And win, it did. Engine details. Under the hood sat one of the most feared power plants of its era, the 426 Hemi V8. This wasn't just any engine, it was Chrysler's ultimate weapon. With dual 4-barrel carburetors, hemispherical combustion chambers, and race-grade internals, the 426 Hemi was a legend in its own right. Officially, Dodge rated it around 425 horsepower, but everyone knew those numbers were conservative. Real output was closer to 500 horsepower or more, depending on setup. When that Hemi roared to life, it wasn't just an engine starting, it was history being written, 1/4 mile at a time. The 1967 Dodge Coronet W023, rare, raw, and ruthless. A true drag strip assassin disguised as a humble sedan. Number 8 on the list, but number 1 in attitude. Number 7, a machine so rare, so raw, and so untamed that even the drag strip feared it. We're talking about the 1967 Plymouth Belvedere 2R023, a car that wasn't made for the streets, but for one single purpose: absolute domination on the quarter mile. Back in the late 1960s, American automakers were in the middle of an all-out horsepower war. Every brand wanted bragging rights at the drag strip, but for Chrysler and its sub-brand Plymouth, the mission was personal. They weren't just chasing trophies. They were chasing a legacy. A legacy written in smoke, rubber, and roaring Hemi power. Now, at first glance, the Belvedere 2R023 might look like any other mid-sized Plymouth of the era. But that's where the illusion ends. This wasn't your neighbor's family sedan. This was a factory-built warrior, designed with one mission: to leave everything else behind at the green light. Everything about the 2R023 was purpose-built. Plymouth engineers didn't just build a car, they carved out a weapon for NHRA Superstock competition. The interior? Bare minimum. No radio, no heater, no sound insulation, no unnecessary chrome, not even hubcaps. Anything that didn't make it faster was stripped away. What remained was pure business, a no-nonsense racing shell that weighed just a touch over 3,000 pounds. Light, loud, and lethal. This car was part of a secret arms race inside Chrysler's performance division. Dodge had the Coronet, Plymouth needed its answer. The Belvedere 2R023 became that answer, a symbol of the brand's commitment to high-performance racing. Every inch of it was crafted to destroy the competition on the drag strip. When the light went green, the 2R023 didn't just move, it exploded forward. The rear tires clawed at the pavement, the body twisted under torque, and the car rocketed down the strip in a blur of smoke and fury. Drivers said it felt like being launched out of a cannon, unpredictable, unforgiving, but absolutely exhilarating. And if you were lucky enough to find one of these today, you'd be staring at one of the rarest Plymouths ever built. Only 55 of these pure drag-spec Belvederes were ever made. And of those, just 17 were fitted with the legendary 4-speed A833 manual transmission, making them not just rare, but practically mythical in Mopar history. And that brings us to the heart of this beast. Engine details. Beneath its lightweight hood sat Chrysler's legendary 426 cubic inch Hemi, the elephant engine known for its brutal power and durability. For the 2R023, it came with heavy-duty internals, forged pistons, and a specially tuned dual-quad carb setup to feed the beast. All that fury was sent to a 4.88:1 sure-grip rear end, ensuring the car stayed locked in its power band from launch to finish line. It wasn't built for comfort. It wasn't built for show. It was built to win, and win it did. That's the 1967 Plymouth Belvedere 2R023, number 7 on our list, and one of the most fearsome drag machines ever to roll. Number 6. Now, imagine a car so wild that even standing next to it made your pulse race. A machine built not for the streets, not for Sunday cruising, but for one thing only: pure, unfiltered domination on the drag strip. That beast was the 1968 Plymouth Barracuda B029 Superstock. Back in the late 1960s, muscle cars were everywhere: big engines, bright colors, and endless power battles between Ford, Chevy, and Mopar. But when Plymouth rolled out the B029, it was like dropping a bomb in the middle of the horsepower war. This car wasn't made for everyone. Only around 50 were ever produced, hand-picked and factory-tuned for professional drag racers. You didn't walk into a dealership and buy one of these, you earned it. Built in collaboration with Hearst Performance, the B029 was all business. Plymouth stripped out everything that wasn't essential: no radio, no heater, no unnecessary trim. Even the side mirrors were optional. The focus was absolute speed. The car was based on the second-generation Barracuda, riding on Chrysler's smaller A-body platform, which made it lighter, more compact, and way more agile than its bigger brothers in the lineup. Plymouth engineers didn't stop there. They went to extremes: acid-dipped the steel doors to cut weight, replaced front fenders with fiberglass panels, and reinforced the chassis to handle violent launches off the line. The suspension was beefed up, and the rear end was tuned to bite the asphalt hard. Every single inch of this car screamed performance. On the track, the results were jaw-dropping. The B029 Superstock could rip through a quarter mile in as little as 10 seconds flat, numbers that were unheard of for a factory-built car in 1968. Crowds watched in disbelief as this lightweight missile tore down the strip, leaving everything else in a cloud of smoke and burnt rubber. Collectors today still talk about the legend of the B029. Some say 50 were made, others claim as many as 70, but either way, each one is a rare piece of Mopar history, a time capsule from an era when horsepower was the ultimate badge of honor. And now, let's talk about what made this monster truly roar. Engine details ***. Under that lightweight hood sat the mighty 426 Hemi V8, a hand-built powerhouse delivering around 425 horsepower, though most racers knew it was far more than that in reality. This wasn't just an engine, it was a weapon. With dual 4-barrel carburetors, high compression, and a race-tuned camshaft, the 426 Hemi turned the Barracuda B029 into a factory-born drag legend, one that still gives modern performance cars a run for their money. Number 5, the 1971 Plymouth Hemi GTX. A machine that didn't just roar down the road, it announced itself. Picture this, the early 70s, the muscle car era gasping for one last deep breath before the storm of emissions laws and insurance hikes choked it out. The golden age was fading fast, but before the curtain fell, Plymouth had one final ace up its sleeve. The 1971 GTX was that last glorious howl, a car that blended class, confidence, and chaos all in one. They called it the gentleman's muscle car, and it wore that title perfectly. Sleek yet brutal, refined yet rebellious. It wasn't for the kid who wanted to show off, it was for the man who knew exactly what he was driving. From the very first glance, the 71 GTX stood apart. Built on Chrysler's B-body platform, its design was all new that year, a bold mix of muscle and sophistication. The loop-style front bumper and split grille gave it a sharp, almost predatory face. The fastback roofline sliced through the air like it meant business, and those body contours flowed with a kind of power that was both sculpted and wild. Step inside, and you'd find a cabin that didn't scream race car, but whispered power with manners. Everything was wrapped in that early 70s charm, from the clean dashboard lines to the sporty bucket seats and chrome-trimmed dials. It was comfortable, confident, and unmistakably American. On the streets, the GTX commanded respect. It wasn't just a car, it was a statement. A declaration that raw power and craftsmanship could coexist. Only about 2,942 units rolled out of the factory that year, and just 30 of those carried the heart that made legends tremble. You didn't just buy a GTX, you earned one. And while competitors were dialing back on performance, the GTX went out swinging. Every inch of its design, from the stance to the sound, told you this was one of the last true gladiators of the muscle car world. When you saw one idle at a red light, paint gleaming, exhaust rumbling like a warning, you knew better than to challenge it. Because when that throttle opened up, the sound was pure fury wrapped in steel. It marked the end of an era, the moment before American performance was shackled by regulation. The 71 GTX wasn't just another car from the past, it was a monument to what muscle cars used to be: loud, proud, and unfiltered. Now, let's talk about the heart of this beast. Engine details ***. Under the hood, the base power plant was the massive 440 cubic inch Super Commando V8, delivering tons of torque with a smooth yet menacing growl. But for those who craved something even more ferocious, an $884 option unlocked the legendary 426 cubic inch Street Hemi. Officially rated at 425 horsepower, but anyone who's ever heard one knows that number was conservative. It was raw, thunderous, and untamed. Only 30 GTX left the factory with that engine, making it one of the rarest and most coveted muscle cars of its time. Number 4. You're looking at one of the most legendary machines to ever roar down American roads, the 1971 Plymouth Roadrunner. Now, here's the thing, the Roadrunner was never about luxury, style, or comfort. It was about one thing and one thing only: pure, unfiltered muscle. When this car hit the streets, it wasn't trying to impress anyone with fancy chrome or plush interiors. No, it was built to intimidate, to sound mean, to move fast, and to leave tire marks that told the world it had been there. In the late 1960s, Plymouth wanted to bring back affordable performance for the everyday driver. So they stripped away the extras: no thick carpets, no shiny wood trims, just the essentials. You got bench seats, basic gauges, and a whole lot of raw power under the hood. The idea was simple: every dollar should go into speed, not luxury. And guess what? It worked. The Roadrunner became an instant hit with car enthusiasts who wanted performance without the high price tag. By 1971, things got even more interesting. The Roadrunner received a bold new redesign, sleeker lines, a more rounded body, and a wider stance that made it look ready to pounce. It wasn't just about looks, either. The new aerodynamic shape helped it slice through the air more efficiently, giving it an edge on both the street and the track. And speaking of the track, that same year, the Roadrunner made history. Racing legend Richard Petty took his race-prepped version to victory at the 1971 Daytona 500. Not only did he win that race, but he dominated the entire season, securing 21 more victories with his Roadrunner. That cemented the car's reputation not just as a street beast, but as a true champion of the NASCAR era. On the streets, though, the 71 Hemi Roadrunner was something of a unicorn. With only 28 units ever built, it became one of the rarest and most desirable Mopars ever produced. Each one was special, a perfect blend of brute strength, minimalism, and attitude. When you see one today, you're not just looking at a car, you're looking at a piece of American muscle history, a machine that represents an era when performance came first, and everything else came second. And yes, while its design evolved and its features improved, the soul of the Roadrunner stayed the same: wild, unapologetic, and loud enough to shake the ground beneath your feet. Engine details ***. Under the hood, the 1971 Plymouth Roadrunner packed the legendary 426 cubic inch Hemi V8 engine, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. This powerhouse produced around 425 horsepower and 490 lb-ft of torque, allowing it to rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just about 5 seconds. It was raw, it was loud, and it was built for one purpose: to dominate anything that dared to line up beside it. Number 3. You've probably heard about the Dodge Charger, the Roadrunner, and the Cuda. But what if I told you there's a Dodge from the 60s that hides one of the most powerful engines of its era inside a plain-looking 4-door family car? Sounds unreal, right? Well, let's rewind to 1966 and uncover one of Mopar's best-kept secrets, the 1966 Dodge Coronet Hemi 4-door. Only 5 units were ever built. That's right, just 5. When Dodge decided decades later to make a modern 4-door Charger, many muscle car fans weren't exactly thrilled. But Dodge had already tested that idea long before anyone realized it. Back in the mid-60s, they quietly built a 4-door rocket that looked like a family car but ran like a drag strip monster. Now, the Dodge Coronet wasn't a headline grabber like the Charger or Challenger. It was a modest, everyday sedan. The kind your neighbor might drive to the grocery store or take the kids to school in. But Dodge engineers had something different in mind. They wanted to prove that muscle and practicality could coexist, even if only for a handful of lucky drivers. Underneath that calm exterior, the Coronet carried serious racing DNA. This wasn't about comfort or luxury, it was pure performance. No air conditioning, no power steering, no power brakes. You didn't drive it to feel relaxed. You drove it to feel alive. When you turned the key, the whole car shook with anticipation. It wasn't polished, it was raw. It demanded respect every time you hit the gas. Most people today don't realize how bold this move was for Dodge. The muscle car market was just heating up, and here they were, building what could easily be called America's first sleeper car, a vehicle that looked innocent but could blow the doors off almost anything at a stoplight. Imagine rolling up next to what looks like a family sedan, only to watch it disappear down the quarter mile in a cloud of tire smoke. Production numbers remain a bit of a mystery. Records show that 2 of these Coronets were sent overseas, possibly for government or testing purposes. 2 more were reportedly commissioned by the FBI. Yes, the Federal Bureau of Investigation wanted these for their fleet. That leaves just one known civilian-owned Hemi Coronet sedan in the United States. 1. The rest are either lost, destroyed, or tucked away somewhere in the shadows of automotive history. So, while enthusiasts spend their time talking about Super Bs, Chargers, and Cudas, this quiet 4-door sits in the background, humble, unassuming, but legendary to those who know the story. It represents a rare moment when Dodge took a wild chance, mixing brute strength with everyday practicality, and somehow created one of the rarest muscle cars ever to roll off an American assembly line. And now, the part that made this sedan a legend. Engine details. The 1966 Dodge Coronet Hemi 4-door was powered by the 426 cubic inch Hemi V8, an engine that defined the golden era of American muscle. Number 2. Imagine cruising down an open highway, the wind tearing through your hair, the sound of raw American power echoing behind you. That's not just any car you're driving, it's a 1970 Dodge Challenger R/T convertible, a rare masterpiece of muscle and style. Only 9 were ever built, making it one of the most exclusive machines of its era. The Challenger R/T wasn't just a car, it was a statement, bold, confident, and unapologetically powerful. Its long, sculpted hood with twin scoops looked like it was born to breathe speed. Chrome accents gleamed in the sunlight, from the signature gas cap to the R/T badges proudly flashing across its aggressive body. Every inch of it screamed performance, yet somehow managed to carry an elegance that few muscle cars could match. Dodge gave buyers a sense of freedom that matched the spirit of the car itself. You could personalize your Challenger with options like a rear spoiler for that racing edge, hood tie-down pins that hinted at track readiness, or even a luggage rack, just in case your idea of a weekend getaway involved 440 cubic inches of fun. Everything about the Challenger R/T was designed to turn heads and raise heart rates. Inside, Dodge proved that muscle and luxury could live in harmony. The cabin was a blend of sport and sophistication, tall bucket seats that wrapped around you like a racing harness, an electric clock to remind you that time was flying even if you weren't, and rich faux wood grain trim running across the dash. It wasn't just built for speed, it was built for comfort and class. And if you wanted more, the options list was almost endless, from cruise control and upgraded radios to full leather upholstery. Dodge made sure every Challenger felt as personal as its driver. Only 9 of these convertibles ever rolled off the line, and just 5 of those came with the legendary 4-speed manual gearbox. That scarcity alone makes the 1970 Challenger R/T convertible a crown jewel among collectors, a car that defines the golden age of Detroit muscle. A car that doesn't just drive history, it is history. Engine details ***. At the heart of this beast was a lineup of serious power plants. The Challenger R/T could be fitted with engines ranging from the reliable 383 Magnum to the monstrous 446 pack, and of course, the legendary 426 Hemi, the king of them all. Paired with its advanced suspension setup, rear leaf springs, front torsion bars, and anti-roll options, this machine didn't just look mean, it handled like a true performance car of its time. The 1970 Dodge Challenger R/T convertible wasn't just built to go fast, it was built to be remembered. Number 1, 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1. Imagine a time when muscle cars ruled the streets, when horsepower wasn't just a number, it was a statement. In 1970, Buick decided it was time to show the world that luxury and raw power could live in the same machine. And that's when the legend was born, the 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1. This car wasn't just another entry into the muscle car era. It was Buick's declaration of dominance. The GSX took everything refined about the Buick brand, comfort, style, sophistication, and then unleashed a beast underneath that elegant shell. From the first glance, the GSX demanded attention. The bold Saturn yellow and Apollo white color options weren't just paint, they were personality. The black racing stripes running down the hood and the massive rear spoiler gave it a look that screamed attitude. Even standing still, the GSX looked like it was breaking the speed limit. Step inside, and the story changed from aggression to elegance. You got the comfort of a full luxury interior, bucket seats, a center console, and even a rally gauge cluster that made the driver feel like a professional racer. Buick knew that muscle didn't have to mean rough, it could mean refined power. On the streets, the 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1 was feared. It was faster than most Chevelles, GTOs, and even some Hemis. It was the gentleman's muscle car, a car that could destroy its rivals at a drag strip and then take you to dinner in quiet comfort. What made the GSX so special was how underestimated it was. People didn't expect Buick to build something this wild. But once they heard it roar, they knew the game had changed. This car became a symbol of power with class, a rare combination that few others could match. And today, the 1970 Buick GSX Stage 1 stands as one of the most collectible and admired muscle cars ever built. Its limited production numbers make it even more legendary, and its performance still earns respect more than 50 years later. When you talk about true American muscle, you can't ignore this masterpiece. The GSX wasn't just fast, it was fearless. A car that proved Buick could play with the toughest competitors and still keep its cool. Engine details. Under the hood, the Stage 1 package brought the real magic. It packed a 455 cubic inch V8 engine, tuned to produce a factory-rated 360 horsepower, but in reality, it was closer to 400 plus. The torque? A monstrous 510 lb-ft, making it one of the highest torque ratings of any American car at that time. It featured high-performance heads, a hotter camshaft, and a specially tuned quadrajet carburetor. Paired with either a turbohydramatic 400 automatic transmission or a 4-speed manual, the GSX Stage 1 could hit 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.8 seconds, an astonishing feat for a car of its size. This wasn't just an engine, it was Buick's masterpiece. Smooth, brutal, and unforgettable.